folks, with episode 32. We got a racing legend here, Steve David. Steve's done it all, from unlimited hydroplanes, started in T-boats. He's been an H1 chairman, APBA president. If there's somebody that knows anything about hydroplane racing, it's Steve. Welcome on, Steve.
Thanks, Brent. It's a pleasure to be with you, Kyle, and Austin.
So we're excited to dive into things, but I think to start it off, you've been out of boat racing for a while. So what's going on in your life these days?
Life is grand. I merged with several of my companies and have some great people running it. So I'm just enjoying kind of semi-retirement and running my real estate investment trust. So we live 6 months in the winter in the Florida Keys in a place called Ocean Reef, where I am now, and the other 6 months in upstate South Carolina, just south of Asheville, on a place called Lake Kiowee at the reserve. So we go from the mountains to the ocean, and life couldn't be better. I'm flying and teaching aviation to commercial pilots and just having a ball. 71 years old is so far is real good.
That's awesome. Definitely sounds like a relaxing time. Now, what you said, real estate investment, what businesses are those and what got you to that point?
We own since 74 when I got started. I've developed real estate, whether it was shopping centers or apartment buildings, residential real estate, and retained most of that I didn't sell. So that's kind of my day-to-day thing that I keep an eye on, but I have some great people at the management company that take care of most of it. I just get involved in more of the development decisions at this point, but I'm really relying on a lot of really sharp people that are working with me.
Nice. I think that brings us into one of the top questions. I went through and had a bunch of questions for you here, but one of the top was, how has boat racing helped your professional career, if it has?
It didn't. It's it takes a lot away from it, because when you get involved in racing, you're committed to it and you set a lot of things aside that you probably shouldn't. I think one of the great things about your family is that they've really integrated all of the children into boat racing from, Papa on down. And that's something I have great respect for. In my case, I was trying to balance the interest of my shareholders with boat racing. And that's a difficult thing to do, because boat racing would always take precedent.
Yeah, no doubt there. I can definitely see that.
Does. Yeah. Like my daughter needed diapers. I was like, no, I got to get the boat ready.
Hey, you got rags.
What led you into boat racing years ago, and how'd you get your start?
Raised in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, on the water, and there were 6 of us, so there wasn't a lot of money. So you had to figure out how to make yourself faster in the neighborhood to beat the kids next door, whether it was the Strelly family or the Jacksons. A lot of kids I grew up with. So started at about 6 with my first boat, and was building them from old Glenelg kits and patterns, and then was really fortunate early on to get sponsorship with Donzi Marine. And then Champ and several others, and started driving professionally, originally for Dale and Peggy Dahl. They had a SK441, the Drambuie, and what was then called funny boat class, and that boat was the Rattler. The Donzi was B-57. This is 1968-69.
Wow.
So I was getting, I think it was 250 for first, 150 for second, and 75 for third. So, 14 years old, it was like unbelievable that you're even paid to do what I love to do.
That's awesome. That's pretty exciting. Now, how'd that transition I think you ran T-boat next?
Yeah, I ran in every class of limited hydro except 225 class. But grew up with the likes of Sherman Polhamus, phenomenal 225 racers, Gene Benning, folks like that. So didn't run that class, but ran all the others at Miami Marine Stadium. When the stadium opened, it really gave us a great forum to race in somewhat of a controlled environment. And then from there in Florida, we used to have a race every month, whether it was St. Petersburg or Stewart, Merritt Island, the Florida Keys, Miami. So we had some great racing here as a kid growing up.
That's awesome.
I'm sure that disappoints you, seeing it kind of fizzle out, that we're down to just Lakeland, at least for the inboard side of it.
Yeah.
The manatees.
Yeah, exactly. The population changed dramatically, with the South Florida explosion. The environment became such a huge thing, and sailboaters and powerboaters and everybody competing for limited water. So it really changed that. We still have, some offshore that works. I did a lot of offshore in the early 2000s. Now it's just my My playboat's an offshore boat, but I don't offshore race anymore.
Nice. Bobby, you want to jump in with anything? I want to take over the show.
So you drove everything from 1.5 stock up to unlimited. What was your, besides unlimited, what was your favorite class besides unlimited?
Great question, Bobby. When I started, I ran 48s early on. I had it was actually a waterback, and then kept with the waterback and worked up, from the 48 to the 850. We originally had Crosley engines, and then went to the Sunbeam Nims, and you guys screwed it up with your 2-cycle junk. And and I must say that your family's built some awesome engines and gearboxes for that class. Set the Kilo record at 102. I thought, well, that record will be safe for a long time, but it wasn't.
Yeah.
So what boat was my favorite? Really, any boat I was in. I just, loved it. Ran 78 different hulls and won in 78 different hulls in my lifetime. So whatever boat I was in, it's kind of like who's my favorite wife or the one I'm married to. It was the same with boat.
No, I was in Madison a couple weeks ago. Is that your 1-liter mod hanging in the tap?
It is.
Restaurant?
It properly belongs being screwed to a wall in a bar. That was an awesome boat. That was a Don Kelson hull, and Don was a super guy. It was owned for a little while by Jimmy Sellers. Jimmy blew it over when it was new in St. Petersburg, and was going to sell it. And I had a 1928 Model A, and I traded the Model A for the boat. Actually, Joe Tate brought the boat down and then loaded the 28 Model A on the trailer and took it back.
Nice.
Before that, the 850 I bought was a Ron Jones conventional that Jimmy 8 owned.
Okay.
That's the one I think that your dad, I believe, ended up buying. I took it up to Kent Island, I think, and he bought it in 1980, maybe something like that.
I believe so.
Had an engine problem and pounded a hole in the deck with his fist. I think he's calmed down.
Yep, that is one of the true stories. He hasn't calmed down much, though.
No. He's the champion that he is.
So I know we don't race any there anymore, but you probably still hold the 2.5 mile course competition at Pearl Harbor.
I do, yeah, 154 and some change, and we actually ran the first 3 laps at 160, but my EGT was kind of gone through the moon, so I had to back it down. So yeah, that record has stood, and then the fastest lap at 166 has stood as well.
How was it going over there and racing at Pearl Harbor?
It was an amazing feeling. When we first went there on Ford Island, you realize what had happened there in 1941. There was still, shrapnel in the tower there at the air base. We took boats across, and you get off by the Arizona. So it was a much emotional, as it was the excitement, of being in Hawaii. But it was certainly a powerful thing. We met some really awesome people in the military there. In fact, they all volunteered to be members of our crew. The head of SINCPAC, Pacific Fleet, each one of them was amazing people, the admirals. I mean, they're really gearheads, because most of it's flown off of carriers. So it was at one time super competitive, super cool, but from an emotional standpoint, it was a very powerful experience.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's that would be a pretty not to even race, just a cool place to go visit. And then I think racing is just like that's a cherry on top, is being able to go over there and to run. So
it really was. It truly was. Sometimes when we're racing, we don't realize how very fortunate we are. And in retrospect, that was one of those experiences. In fact, my godson lives in Hawaii. I grew up with in Fort Lauderdale. Put us up at his hotels. He was to be the general manager for Alberta Hotels and Terry Dossett, and that's where I met my godson. So we go back there as often as we can, or he comes here to South Florida.
Nice. So you have 18 victories and unlimiteds over the years. Final wins.
8, but Mike Noonan took away 40 of them. Okay.
Hey,
some about those Noonan brothers.
We're holding off those comments till the end.
Something about those Noonan brothers, man.
I love Billy and Mike. They're absolutely, salt of the earth guys and really the backbone of APB inboard racing. And even though we had our arguments when I was racing, I have nothing but respect for the Noonan brothers.
So out of those, which one stands out to you the most that just trumps them all?
Seattle, obviously winning in Madison, my very first race with the team, that was important for the fans. It was important for sponsorship because at that point, Madison hadn't landed Oberto. There was discussions about it, but I think that win helped sow that deal. And then winning in Seattle the very first time on Otto Oberto's 80th birthday, and then winning another 3 times there. That to me, that was like our Daytona 500. Was the Seattle race.
Okay, nice.
That's awesome. To backstep a little bit, when you first got into Unlimited, what's the storyline there for the fans that don't know?
Luck. I mean, the reality is, I think there's a whole bunch of great limited drivers, whether they're limited inboard or OPC or stock outboard, they could do as well or better than anybody that's ever been in Unlimited. It's just there's X amount of seats. And so mine was luck. Jim McCormick and Bob Fendler had bought Jim Sedam's U-22, Staudiker, and they happened to be at St. Petersburg in '88. And I had a great weekend then, one set a record and then puked the engine in my Steeler 7-liter on Sunday. The same weekend that Chevrolet was there to take a look at me for sponsorship. So I landed the Chevrolet sponsorship, working with some great people from Chevrolet, and actually blowing up the engine helped because when they looked at all the pieces in the bilge, they said, you definitely need our help. So that worked. My sponsor, Hank Langsenkamp, the late Hank Langsenkamp, was there with me and really made that happen. And then it happened to be that McCormick was there as well. So it was one of those situations, just right place, right time, wasn't planned. I was delighted running my 7-liter, but the opportunity availed itself.
Awesome.
That's awesome. And now, and to touch on that a little bit, have you seen any change in that in Unlimited over the years, even after you've been out? Does it take a little bit more to get in, or it's kind of still that same luck of the draw type thing?
Still the good old boys club, which is a real shame. It's like I say, I mean, the 4 guys I'm looking at right now on the screen would be outstanding Unlimited drivers. I just wish there were more opportunities for more people. The guys like Wheeler Baker didn't really get a chance to get in good equipment. Tate did, and certainly proved, Mark Tate did, and certainly proved what he could do. I just wish there were more opportunities because I think there's some great drivers that because of the limited seats won't get that opportunity. Probably like there is in NASCAR. You go to any good dirt track in America, there's people that can probably kick anybody's butt in NASCAR, but the seats are limited. So that's my regret. Is I wish we had more opportunities and it wasn't such a closed society, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I feel like the transition here lately, especially with HRL, having more of a feeder system from 2.5 stock up to Grand Prix. And now it seems like Grand Prix is having a pretty big growth that's given people an opportunity to almost get there. Like I said, reference in NASCAR to get to Xfinity. But then from there on, there's only 36 rides in NASCAR. And then Unlimited, there's 6. So you kind of you either get there and you make it or you don't and you stay where you're at and enjoy that time.
Absolutely. I don't know, how many friends would come to the races and they say, can you introduce me to owners? Help me ride. And a lot of those rides came because somebody on the crew knew you and made a recommendation. Guys like, I'm forgetting his first name, which I shouldn't, but one of my engine builders back in the T Plus days is really the one that brought along J. Michael Kelly. Knew him from stock outboards. And so people around the sport say, hey, I know somebody that, that could make a good driver. So you just don't know where it's going to come from. And that's like a lot of things in life. You put yourself out there, you hope you're somewhere where you're going to be seen and noticed. But again, few and far between.
For sure. I think piggybacking off of that, the limited amount of boats in the class, is that because of cost? Obviously you were around a while ago, not to say age-wise, but when did you see the cost go up, or has Unlimited always just been overly expensive?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, a lot of the owners are just jackasses. They will not adjust to what the market will bear. As a business person, I can only charge what the market will pay for, right? When I build stuff in my rents, it's whatever people can afford. And they won't, limit the propellers. They won't limit RPMs. They won't limit fuel. because they want to do it the way they've always done it, and they're just devouring themselves. We need a product that John and Mary America can go out and buy somewhere. Y'all running Grand Prix, I can buy a Chevrolet, I can buy a Hemi, I can buy superchargers, I can go to Summit. Unlimited, it's like a secret handshake. You got to know where to go to get stuff built, and really all the builders are gone. So unless they really make it something that the average person who can write a check can buy it without having to know, who knows what, I think the sport has a big problem. And really,
Yeah.
Grand Prix, to me, is probably the next step up. Grand Prix, bigger horsepower, a little bit bigger boat, is what ultimately will replace Unlimiteds.
We were just looking at cost, gearboxes, shafts, props, engines, maintenance, and all that, and it's just it's gotten out of hand. I mean, I don't know. Going off what I think it is, I think it's back in the day, Bernie Little ran up the cost and everyone had to keep up with him. And then since then, it kind of just stayed that way. Maybe not everyone's rebuilding their engine after every weekend like they used to, but I think Bernie Little ran up that cost so high and they never really figured out how to try to get that cost back down.
Yeah, absolutely. Long shafts don't last a season. Short shafts don't last a season. Yeah, the XXX propellers, maybe 30 laps, $12,000 to $15,000 per propeller. Gearboxes are $50K plus. Yeah. A lot of people are running old crap. It's just, you're passing down used props. And, you look at Ed Cooper every time he went out last, you puke something because they're having to run old stuff because of the price of it. Yeah. So until they become cognizant of that, I don't really see it progressing.
Yeah, I mean, it would be nice to see 10, 12 Unlimiteds out there once again, but I think like I just don't see it happening until they try to rein that cost of running a program back in. I mean, when you're going out and spending, like Madison spending was $100,000 just on a manager and then team manager, then they had to rent the shop, and then just look at all the costs just in that, and then not even running cost.
Yeah, and they're averaging. In the old days, early 2000s, the total price purse was about $120,000, and that was split 50% to qualifying, 50% prize money. Mm-hmm. That went away when they needed teams, so then they just divided up that money amongst whatever team showed up. So you had 10 boats, it was $12,000 a boat. Now maybe 15 a boat, but that doesn't cover, if you're really competitive, that doesn't cover 15% of your cost per race. So they just haven't really adjusted. I know Charlie Grooms is really trying to figure out, which is partially, I think, why he's on the team, is, what's next? And can he be part of what is next? I've met with some folks and the Tournament of Charlie in the marine propulsion business trying to put together something. And the marine side is saying, when you get your act together, come and talk to us. But until you get your act together, there's no need to take this discussion any further.
Yeah. I mean, I wish Unlimited is the best. I hope they do figure something out. I mean, whether it's a new engine or try to get a title sponsor, but it is very painful these past 2 years watching 5-6 boats go out there and run when GPs are sitting on the trailers for the final race of the day. There's 12 of us watching, and then 5 boats out there for the final race of the day. It's like, hey, let's switch this up. GP should go out for the final race of the day.
I'm with you. I mean, to me, GP is like top fuel. At NHRA, people stay there all day for the top fuel. I really think that's you guys. And so if we were to, you add a couple hundred pounds, you add 3 feet of length to a GP, and you go bigger inches, bigger horsepower, that would be the new Unlimited. And really, fan standpoint, 180 versus 200, you don't see that difference. Lap speeds of 145 versus 155, you don't see that difference. What you would do is you'd hear the noise and you could relate to it. You buy spark plugs, you buy fuel, you buy plug leads, you buy cylinder heads and valves and springs and rocker arms. So that gives me hope.
Yeah, I did. Like you saying, you buy this, you buy spark plugs, buy heads, that opens the door for so many more sponsors.
Absolutely.
What are you going to? Well, Limited's going to get a kerosene sponsor. I mean,
we've honestly had. Bernie was tight with the Budweiser family. And that was not because Budweiser sold more beer. It was because Bernie was a distributor.
Yep.
Bernie really kept the sport alive. You know, say what you will, you know, he had to have votes falling him. It wasn't Bernie Little, right? So he did subsidize some teams and help them out, and he certainly helped the Madison program early on. But they relied on that so heavily that when Bernie passed away and Budweiser pulled out, there was certainly a vacuum. And then Qatar stepped in and really helped, because every team that went to Qatar grossed around $110,000. And so that really paid for the season for people like the 22 and stuff like that. Well, when Qatar went away in 16, so did those teams. And so now you're left with, what will the sport really justify? Who would sponsor this in a true return on investment dollar? And the answer is, there's nobody right now.
Nope.
And we can say, you know, you can always say, oh, if only we had a title sponsor, if only we had this. You know, that's wishing. Reality is, you've got to deliver hard value. You've got to be able to be monetized.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's just where we're heading with it. It seems like it has a lot of legs to it with the H1 Unlimited and the growth, but there's still those missing pieces, like you're saying, of can they put them together, the puzzle pieces. Now, how do you feel about it being an ownership-driven community right now, or leadership?
I mean, it's the idiots running the asylum, and I like some of them, but you know, it's like I used to go to APBA meetings, not necessarily to improve my class, but to cover my ass and to make sure I knew what they were going to change next year. And with unlimited owners, it's kind of the same thing. Each one of them are protecting their own self-interest. And until you can back away from that and go, we need to build a sport, that's not going to change. And I tried hard. In fact, I put together a committee, I think it was 15 of owners, and I said, I want you guys to come up with 10 things to lower the cost of race. Zero. I think they talked about going from fuel from 4.3 to 4.1. That doesn't get it done. You know, it's I mean, that's just kind of like putting a tourniquet when your arm got cut off. You know, there's hope. I mean, guys like Daryl Strong are very sharp business people, but how many Daryl Strongs are there? You know, they can write a check for $2 million for two teams. You know, the other owners, you know, all well-intentioned, but you know, all the intentions of the world don't make things happen.
Right now,
I agree.
I guess I'm gonna hop out and try to get my mic connected, because apparently I got the wrong mic. Thanks for somebody mentioning it, but I'll be right back in. On the thought of Miss Madison Racing, what's your feeling on them selling, if they are selling? I know it's still rumor based at this point.
Yeah, I am. I think it's you know, certainly more than rumor. What basically happened there is, you know, when the Alberto sponsorship went away, and that's because Alberto sold to a Canadian company, Alberto Brands. They loved the program, and then Alberto passed away. Then Home Street went through some challenges, and that didn't end real well. And then Goodman's a strong sponsor. The problem was the team was still bleeding, and when Bob Hughes passed away, it fell on Charlie to write the checks to cover the negative cash flow. You know, Charlie's my age, 70, 71 years old, and it came to a point where he can't keep writing checks because you got to take care of, you know, himself and his wife going forward. So it was either, you know, sell the team or you know, bankrupt yourself, essentially. I mean, he wasn't to that point, and so he had to do it. He's really been the money behind the team for the past couple of years, along with Goodman. I think Goodman's going to stay in the sport. And if Apollo does close in the deal, I think they'll be great owners. It'll create some great competition because Apollo is in, you know, Pasco area, as is Strong. So that'll create local competition like we used to have with Bernie and, you know, whoever else was the top team. So they're going to be fine. But and Charlie really wants to think about the future of the sport. You can't do that while you're writing checks to keep it alive.
Yeah, I think that'll be a huge benefit. The switch from ownership to just trying to run the sport. One thing we've kind of talked about on here a lot is Unlimited seems to still have that. It's unlimited. We went to Detroit with Grand Prix 350s, and I believe it was the best show ever on water. And then the word from everyone around Detroit was, we want Unlimited back. We're like, why? Like, they're so spread out as racers. We don't understand it. But from your perspective, obviously you've spoken with a lot of fans over the years. What is it that draws everyone to H1 Unlimited?
a great question. I think it's like watching Tyrannosaurus Rexes beat up on each other, but the problem is that market's gone. Me, your parents, we're not going to be around forever. And there's not a lot of young people like you guys following. The only young people that come to the races are the ones that their parents bring them. So we've got to do something to get young people interested in what we're doing. And as long as it's the same people every weekend that you see, it basically is the cemetery march, right? And so, and I don't think that we've addressed, that issue. Mark Webber sure tried in Detroit to put it back together. When he and I worked on making that race come back, we really, really tried, and bringing you guys in really helped the show. When I came back as commissioner, and I think my first race was Doha in 2015, and I'm watching it from a non-driver standpoint, and man, it was a yawner. The boats are separated by 20 rooster tails. There's no noise. There's no competition. And I'm looking along the shoreline. I don't think it was 500 people.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons that race went away is there was a new emir. Hassan, Sheikh Hassan, wonderful guy. One of his uncles had been the emir. A new emir took over. That new emir really had no interest in motorsports. So their NHRA team was severed immediately. The race was severed immediately. I don't see it back. Now, what they did do, of course, is put in the World Cup. They spent a fortune on that. In Europe, F1 boats are doing well, and most of those are because the royal families are running them.
Okay. Oh, that's never knew that. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Nice.
And then you've got some teams that are privately sponsored, but you look at Kuwait and several of the other countries there; those are pretty much covered.
So I gotta ask, how do you still have hair after being the H1 Unlimited chairman and the APBA president before?
I have hair, but I don't have any butt left.
Hey, those are two jobs I don't think I would ever sign up for.
Yeah, I loved being president of APBA because we're such a big family, such a big tent. And while we compete on weekends and yell at each other and cut each other off, at the end of the day, if you need a part, you're going to get it from someone that you compete with. I don't know. People would come up and say, "Hey, can I borrow a wrench?" I go, "Just take it because you're not going to bring it back anyway."
Yeah, that's true.
That's why I only had Craftsman. I never had the good stuff.
I remember my grandfather, after every weekend, he'd sit there, go home, and go through every drawer, see what's missing, what people borrowed and didn't get returned.
But that's our sport. I mean, it really is. It's a huge, weird family. But I loved the APB experience. The unlimited experience, I had hope we could make a difference. I just really didn't know how deeply ingrained the good old boy and girl network was. And how resistant to change it was. It's all Chiefs and no Indians. So in 2016, I think it was, after San Diego, I thought, I'm running a multi-billion-dollar company that's easier than running this little show, and I'm having fun. Running my. So, and then they went through, I don't know how many commissioners. What a great one would have been Doug Bernstein, and one of the owners jumped on Doug's case in Detroit, and Doug said, "I don't need this." Doug's the finest bankruptcy lawyer in the United States. Super. Yeah. He said, "Screw this." So I don't, and honestly, I don't know how you fix that unless you get them all in one room. And my daughters used to have what are called soccer boppers, those things you put on your fist of the ear thing, punch each other. That's what they got to do. Is realize that it's kind of like a wagon train circling, and instead of shooting out at the enemies, they're shooting inside.
Yeah.
Right.
Put them in a room, lock the door, and say it's not getting unlocked until you guys hash some stuff out and we can get some change on paper.
Absolutely. That's the fix it would take.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's, I'm not as involved, just hearing rumblings. That's what I thought it was going to be with this new regime coming in. They had a lot of promise, and maybe they got to iron some things out, and some people have to get roped into different things. But I think that's a good idea for them to do. I don't know if they can. Maybe it takes a bigger money player to come in and be like, "Hey, we're buying H1 Unlimited. We're going to fix it." And then you're either on board or you're out. And if someone came in with enough finances, could do like Valleyfield did when they brought the GPs back. You buy boots. This is what you're running. And I've had complaints about HRL, how they're like, oh, change this rule, change that rule. But then I take a step back and I'm like, I like this because now I can't argue for what I want. And
Right.
it's just everybody's got the same thing.
Yeah. You just, come up with the rules and that's it. I did bring in some pretty heavyweights, business friends of mine, to take a look at the sport, and every one of them said, "What am I buying? What am I going to get out of this?" Because when you're investing serious dollars, you've got to get a return on investment. And it just isn't there. Reality in the current state, the race sites are the sponsors.
Yep.
And until the boats wreck, I remember, the last meeting I attended, they said, you got to go to the race sites and you got to tell them, if you don't up the money, we're not coming. And they go, well, why don't we just cut off our heads, right?
Yeah.
And Kathy Powell is a wonderful woman, ran the Tri-Cities Waterfalls, did a great job. She said, Stephen, we could have a pancake breakfast and make more money than we do putting on this event.
Yep.
So, don't threaten me. If you need money, tell me you need money, but don't threaten me. Well, that was the mindset of the owners. Think about it. And I've put on races. You guys have put on races. I used to put on the kilos in Moorhaven. I did Stewart, Miami. I was Commodore FIRC. All we did was take crap from racers. And it comes a point where you're like, I can stick a needle in my own eye.
Right? Yeah, right.
And probably all of us need to look in the mirror and go, we need to clean up our own acts before we can expect the outside world to come in and love us.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, I believe the best thing right now is just ask race sites to advertise the crap out of their race all year round. And then racers need to try to get content out there on the internet and just spread it like wildfire. And then hopefully things start growing at race sites and then new race teams. And then, once you have all your content out there, you can start targeting some of these bigger sponsors.
Absolutely. And racers taking their stuff to stores and shopping centers and what have you in those race cities. And this is a year-round thing, right? Go to the local Ace store, go to the True Value store, go in front of the Walmarts, go in front of Home Depots and get the stuff seen, put kids in the boat, take pictures. We've just got to make it known.
Yeah.
Where I am here in South Florida, people go, didn't you used to race something? And I go, yeah, unlimited hydroplanes. I go, what's that? Now, if I say a cigarette, oh yeah, I know what those are, but they have no clue what hydros are.
Right. Yeah, we make the joke that if you do that with someone on the street, that if you're like, do you remember the Miss Budweiser? Well, they remember that, but that's because of all the advertisement they did, the commercial, the frogs, all that stuff, all that post race stuff.
Yeah.
Not the actual racing.
Yeah, it's so it can be done. And Bobby, I think your recommendations were spot on. Is getting out there, getting in the face of people, letting them touch this stuff.
Yeah, I think everyone gets complacent, especially the boat racers, where there's a race, I'm going there, go home. There's a race, going there, go home, and then they don't try to interact with anyone between the home and the race site or around the race site, and so you have your race, and then after that race is dead for a year. And the race, they don't really start on it until maybe 6 or 7 months after the race. They start up for next year, but it needs to be constantly just reminding the town, reminding the people, and anyone you come in contact with about boat racing and the upcoming races, and try to get people involved.
Absolutely. In fact, next time you guys go to a race, when everybody leaves on a Sunday, take a look around the pits and the race site. You'll see all kinds of crap left. We don't stay and clean up our own mess. We invite the race sites to our teams afterwards and have a beer with them, or take them out to dinner and go, hey, thank you so much for doing this. These are all volunteers, right? Nobody's making money putting on races, and we got to remember we are their guests and we need to take care of them.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree with that. Now, diving back into inboard racing away from H1 for a little bit, we spoke about Florida races. You had so many, and you had that whole winter season down there. How much of an effect do you think it is to have some races either at the same race site multiple times a year, or at least within a couple hours of each other? Do you think that grows the sport more than having 8-hour separation between race sites?
Yeah, I think even if we only have at Lakeland, if that is the race in Florida, if we could do that a couple times a year, when you think about Daytona, I think they have 2 races at Daytona. Everybody knows Daytona, Lakeland could become that for us. It's a freshwater lake. It's in the center of the state. The airports are close by. The highways are good with I-75, I-4, I-95. So that could be, the home of boat racing in the South in the wintertime. One of the challenges you have is you only have X number of weekends. And you're going to have conflicts. I think Guntersville conflicts next year with, Decatur.
Decatur, yep.
And nobody can blame anybody. There's just only so many weekends. And so how do you apportion that when we only have a limited supply of boats? That's a challenge as well. And that's one where a sanctioning body, unfortunately, has got to make some tough decisions, right?
Yeah.
And that's where you get everybody in the same room and go, here are the 18 weekends, whatever it is that we can race. How are we going to do this and make everybody successful?
I touched this on the last episode. You hear rumors of this race coming back or this race going to happen and this new one. I was like, that's great and all because, as a boat racer, you want to be able to go race all these weekends. But at the same time, I think these clubs, they need to focus on growing one race and make it a huge event before branching off and doing two. Because when you put on a backyard race and you put on another backyard race, it's just a backyard race. You've got to try to grow one to make it a premier event and then try to start another race.
Yeah, spot on. Think about it, Bobby, years and years ago, right? When the season started in Region 3 and 4 in May, almost every weekend, right? I mean, we had, you start,
Greenwood Lake, Kent Island, Cambridge, Mazaland. You had Lake Apacon North, Lake Apacon, the yacht club, and then the state park.
Exactly. Our sport has probably 10 times the number of previous race sites than we do current race sites. And that's give us pause to ask how come. Why do we have more old sites and not new sites? And let's try to fix that problem.
Well, one, trying to get new racers in.
Yeah.
That is the hardest thing. When you get new racers in, you open up more bodies to volunteer and help out at these local clubs and local races. I think I'm a strong believer. One reason why it's hard to get people in, look at the price tag of a brand new carbon fiber boat. It doesn't matter what class it is. Right. You are not spending under $30,000 if it's brand new.
Yeah.
I mean, that is one major setback with trying to bring people in.
You're spot on. When the 7-liter class exploded in 84, 85, it's when John Stoddard was putting out 7 liters for about $16,000 with a trailer.
Yeah.
Wheeler, Baker, my boat, the Steel or Born in 8. I mean, you name it. They were just popping those boats out and building them in no time at all. They were affordable. They were wood. Yeah, you had to work on them to keep them together, but a bunch of those are still out there. So that is a challenge for the sport.
Yeah, the old Steeler boat that's back on the circuit running. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
It's great, and it is awesome to say that some of the most iconic boats in the sport were made from wood.
Yeah.
Like they weren't carbon fiber, they're not fiberglass, they're wood boats.
They're actually longer lasting.
Yeah, I really think that APBA or HRL they need to try to focus on building a wood class for people who can't afford a $30, $40, $50,000 1-liter stock, 2.5 stock, or 1-liter mod. Like have an entry class that's made of wood that brings the cost down.
Before Ron Jones started building composite boats, he used to say that if God wanted fiberglass boats, he'd build fiberglass trees. It sounds old school, but lower the cost. You broaden the possible participants.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, that's what I'm not sure if you caught any other episodes. We're trying to do that with the 2.5 stock class, bringing in a motor that's spec. We found a lot of people coming into the sport. They don't get all the secrets, right? Cam timing, ignition time, and how you tune your carburetor. So we're trying to eliminate that part. I remember the race car I ran in SCCA was completely spec. It was awesome because you just got in, you drove, and your talent did the work. Obviously, boat racing, if we go to a spec motor, you might have to do spec props, all those other things, because there's more to it than setup-wise.
Sure.
But I just think that's the easiest way to start. You're not going to stop composite boats from being built unless you build a whole new class.
Yeah,
so you got to start somewhere.
Yeah, look what SCCA has done with the Miata class, the stock Miata class.
Yep.
For a couple $1,000, you're out there having a ball. nobody knows what you're doing, but you're having a ball.
Yep.
Competitors.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. If we can lower the cost of entry, and here's your prop, here's the engine, and that's it.
Yep.
Again, racers who have got an advantage now aren't going to want that change.
Right. Yeah, we've been resistant to the change big time, but we're fighting it, and we're using our platform here to get some more fan knowledge
Good.
than just what's in our garages.
Yeah. I remember in the 7-liter.
Quick.
We used to be called, the old J boats were called stock 7s, right? It was a 427, 4776 Holly. Then in 88, I think Alan Wardemeyer got the Ford sponsorship, and he went to, the real exotic engines. And I remember that meeting, and I said, Alan, I think we're going to kill the class when we do this. I can spend every dollar that you can spend, and we're going to kick each other's ass, but everybody else is going to tail off. And that's what we did to the class.
And it's still struggling to this day.
Absolutely. Because when only the wealthy can afford to play, it isn't going to work.
Right. Yeah. I always say there's classes for that. Same thing with the 2.5 stock. You have 2.5 mod. You want to go spend 40,000-50,000 on an S-Linger because it's cool? Sure.
Yeah.
Go do it in that class.
Put it this way,
Yeah.
the 5-liter/350 class,
Mhm.
there's guys buying engines these days $45,000.
Yeah. It's how do you justify? I mean, explain that to your spouse.
If you want to kill
Yeah.
a class fast, that's how you do it.
Absolutely.
Start charging $45,000 for a 350 engine.
Yep. And go to real thin propellers. They're going to last a
Yep.
couple of heats and stuff like that. Absolutely. When you go spec, it really does put it all back on the driver. Who can get the inside lane? Who can nail the start? Who's going to go on a diet? It's absolutely that would make a heck of a difference to have a few of those classes.
Yeah.
Yep. Kyle, you wanted to mention something or ask something?
Yeah, Mike Grendel had a question from the comments. Yes, you wanted to ask Steve what you thought about Guntersville bringing in the offshores and potentially some new fans.
It won't bring any additional fans because offshores in the lake is about as exciting as playing with yourself. Now, I know for a couple of you, maybe that's exciting, but it's they just don't work on lakes. And for a year, I was the chief official for APB Offshore. They really don't work on lakes. Offshore Key West is what everybody knows. It's kind of like our Gold Cup. The Great Lakes, phenomenal races. The races off of New Jersey were good. Gulf of Mexico, but they just don't work very well on lake. I don't think that's going to bring anybody new to the sport.
I mean, it says it in the name, right? Offshore. So
Exactly.
Yeah, they got to be in rough water to create the fan engagement and the excitement.
Yeah, they kind of worked at Detroit when they
Absolutely.
It's so rough.
Absolutely. And the thing with offshore is anybody can, if you can afford the check, anybody can buy an MTI, anybody can buy a skater, anybody can buy a competitive offshore boat. The drive systems are there, the engines are there, the hulls are there. The Tyler Crockett's of the world that build the engines are great guys. So it's plenty available stuff, which is why offshore still survives.
I think I mentioned to Brandon about the whole offshore thing at Guntersville the other day, and I just think that they need to. It'll be cool. I mean, because we don't get to see offshores that much at our races, so it'll be cool for the boat racer to watch. But I really think they should have probably targeted tunnel boats to come race because they're exciting. You could put them right in front of the fans, and it's a different aspect of racing versus going in laps or running way down this way or way down that way.
Yeah, and the reality is at 140 miles an hour, 1 mile out from viewing, it doesn't look like they're doing anything.
No, right. Not at all.
For you and me, it does. If we're in the cockpit, we're like, Yahoo, but not for the fan.
No, at Key West, when they're running 20, 30, 40 feet off the seawall, that puts their speed in perspective.
Absolutely. And I think Guntersville, being a NASCAR area, Grand Prix belongs there. The limited hydros belong there. And the tunnel boats running 100 feet from shore would be really cool. And I think that would bring in, those fans that go to Talladega, they'd go ape over some really good limited hydroplane racing.
Yeah, I agree with that.
What's your take on Texas Tri-Hulls?
Texas Tri-Hulls, that's a cool class.
The Texas Tri-Hulls.
They're wild.
We love that class.
Trials.
We love that class.
man, Rubbin's racing, right? I mean, and it's cheap, you know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Those guys are wild, but it's cool to watch. Like just sitting down and watching some YouTube videos of those guys. Man, it looks like it's a bunch of fun.
They do.
I think Rob.
Yeah, it does.
I think Robin Racing's an understatement almost.
Oh,
These guys are crazy.
Absolutely.
On top of each
Kind of
other.
like Jersey speed skips on steroids.
Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But they have a little bit more control.
Yeah. My first skiff ride was at Lake Apacong, and we won out. And thank God we didn't get run over. But I thought, so this is fun, huh?
Yeah, some people like enjoying beating their head up against the wall,
Yeah,
and they keep coming back.
Those are sick bastards. That's
Oh, was that before roll cages or during?
oh yeah, this was
but that's what I thought. Okay.
Lincoln was president. I mean, we're going way back, right?
Oh, okay.
I rode with Dave Greenlaw in St. Petersburg, and Dave, if you remember, drove from the other side of the boat. So when you went to turn, that big guy is to your right.
I rode with him before. Yeah.
Did you? Yeah, but that was so much fun.
Yeah.
You know, so more of that is, and then it wasn't all that expensive. You know, and it's a shame. I just understood that Jimmy Cucurla just passed away, but another great racer that helped an awful lot of people.
That is one class that has stayed the same over the years besides the roll cages.
Yep.
APBA has kept that under a strict rule where nothing gets changed. So the cost has not went up tremendously like all these other classes.
Absolutely. I mean, other than the people that know the guy in Wisconsin that makes the cheater intake manifolds, it's steady. It stayed the same all the years.
Oh man, that's great.
I like the skiffs too, because kind of like we were talking about a minute ago, like having different types of racing on the weekend. The skiffs are really kind of that branch off from the traditional inboard.
Yes.
And I think you see it in Valleyfield, you see it at other big sites with a lot of fans. Like they really engage well with that.
Absolutely, because it's that's fun stuff to watch. Think about the and we know it was all show, but the big the trucks that run in the stadiums. Yeah, they're
monster trucks.
Yep.
Yeah, they're not doing 40 miles an hour, but they packed 70,000 people in to watch that stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
That's our skiffs.
Yeah, that's true. So what do you think about Madison next year? The race bringing in Unlimited's GPs, 350s, 2.5 stocks, and Jersey speed skiffs.
Awesome. Absolutely going to be terrific. I mean, you're going to leave with a lot of tore up crap, but it'll be fun.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's amazing. That's one thing I've been preaching for a while now with these unlimited races is you have not to make anyone upset, but fill in the time. We call them filler classes if you'd like, but fill in the time with all these other classes. So these people who are on the shore aren't just sitting there twiddling their thumbs for hours at a time, waiting for unlimiteds or GPs to come back out.
Right. There's got to be some, and you all have taken at some point in your life, before you got married, if you did, you took your girlfriend to a race. She was never so bored in her life, but she liked being with you.
Exactly.
We
100%.
This is awesome. And if you got something going on every 5 minutes, you'll bring people.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking at Madison probably being one of the biggest races in 2025, just with how much they have going on with the classes and then trying to get other stuff going on at that race. So it's going to be pretty exciting.
Absolutely. Will it be the week before Valleyfield or?
I think it's
2 weeks before.
2 weeks.
Great.
Yeah.
Great.
2 weeks before.
Time to put everything back together.
Yep.
Exactly.
2 weeks.
Yeah, I don't know. Everybody said that about Madison, and then we went in 2021, and I haven't felt it being that rough. I don't know if they've done something different or we've gotten really lucky the past few years, but
knock on some wood, Brandon.
It's not so. I mean, turn one can get kind of snotty. It's just the debris, right? If they have rain a couple for the race, but if they don't, that course is wonderful, and it's just perfect for what we do with the resounding sound off of the valley. As you go down the straightaways. Obviously, a huge fan base. You draw from Lexington and Louisville and Cincinnati and Indianapolis. So a great market, and it's a market that's they're gearheads.
Yeah,
absolutely. That'll be a great event.
So
how much
advertising
does Madison do
How much? I'm sorry.
In like Kentucky or how much do they do any advertising like out in Louisville and those
Not
surrounding
much
cities?
at all. They do send the boat out. The display boat goes to those areas, and it's kind of a friendly market. They have motorsports editors with some of those papers. They've known about it for years, so it's pretty traditional. Not a lot happens that particular weekend. So for the media, it's a good event to cover. So they don't have to spend a ton like you would elsewhere.
Now, how did it feel? Obviously, staying on this Madison thing, how cool was it to race for that team out of all the unlimited teams?
It was awesome. They, we had beaten them when I drove the T plus. We had beaten them, but I always had respect for them. And when my dad died in '99, and I got out of the sport for a year, Charlie Grooms called me in early 2000 and said, "Are you done with the pity party?" And I said, "What do you mean?" He says, "Well, I know your father died." And I said, "Yeah, I just don't have it in me." And he goes, "Well, I talked to your dad." I said, "You sack of crap, he's dead." He goes, "No, I talked to him." He said, "Get back in the boat." And it started just a wonderful relationship. And the tradition there is just so awesome. The community, when you drive that boat, you're not driving a race boat, you're driving a legacy. And I think anybody that gets in that has to realize that the boat is only 1%, 99% is the people. And you've got to integrate yourself into the community. You've got to go to the Hinkley's and the little bars and little restaurants and the stores and talk to people and hug kids and make them believe that they are part of this legacy. And when you do that, they're with you, whether you win or you get 8th place, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think the transition from you, obviously being that community based driver, to Jimmy Shane was actually pretty seamless. I
Yeah.
feel like Jimmy did a really good job with that, the people pleasing stuff.
Absolutely. I think, his parents did a very good job raising Jimmy, and he was conscious of that and did a really good job carrying that forward.
Bobby, your mic's muted. I'm sure you're talking about beating Jimmy around a couple times.
No.
Getting some sense into him.
No, I'm not trying to blow up your ego, but when I was in Madison a couple weeks ago, I was asking just random questions to people, bartenders, waitresses,
Right.
owners of restaurants. And I one question I'd ask periodically, who's your favorite driver for Madison? And your name came up a few times. So more than everyone else.
Bless their
That's awesome.
feels good that they remember you from the last century.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool because I got a couple Tates, I got a handful of Jimmy Shanes, and then most of them were definitely you. So that was pretty cool.
That's great. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Awesome.
But it's a very cool town to go to. Like anyone, if you have a chance to go spend a few days in Madison, I highly recommend it. Just the people all around there, they know about boat racing. Like they know the history. Or like one waitress, I felt sorry for her. I was like, "Do you like the boat races here?" She goes, "Yeah, it's awesome. It's our most busiest weekend of the whole year, and I'm always working."
Yeah.
I'm like, "I'm sorry."
Oh yeah. I mean, they live and breathe, the sport. That's why I'm so glad to hear what's going to happen there next year, because it, could become the Midwest capital, if you will, kind of like what Dayton was in the '80s.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Kyle Bipes, he plans trying to do it up pretty good for this coming year, and
He's a good guy too. Kyle is. He's working hard.
Yeah, he's
How much
wearing
did
his
he
heart.
pay you to say that?
Yeah.
He didn't pay me anything.
No, I'm saying Steve. He definitely must send a check, Steve.
Send it to
No. No, in fact, I was one of the stupid drivers. I never took a penny to drive the boat when I did get money came from sponsors, but I knew the team needed all their money, so I never took it.
That's nice.
Now transitioning into a little bit more racing talk.
Yeah.
Who could you name one or two drivers that were your biggest rivals, or someone you either definitely wanted to beat, or someone you had utmost respect to race against?
Certainly Dave Villwalk. Dave is a very challenging competitor, but he was a great guy to race against because you couldn't leave anything on the table, right? So Chip, obviously, same way. As that, when I raced against Mark Tate, whether it was in the 850s or 5 liters or unlimiteds, was another one that was that way. The guys that you could race deck to deck, you weren't going to take each other out intentionally. We did take each other out, but it was intentional just because you're going fast and crap happens.
Yeah.
But those are ones that really stand out to me.
Nice. Now, another side of that, you obviously were involved before capsules. How much did that impact how long you stayed racing, the evolution of safety in hydroplane racing?
Well, it's kind of part of the reason that I had to retire in 16. I've got a lot of spine issues and shoulder, and a lot of stuff that's broken. And that was from getting thrown out a whole bunch in the days before canopies. What canopies have done is your body's still together, but there's soft tissue damage. And so the and I don't remember exactly which crash it was because there's been 17 of them. Probably Seattle 98, and was the one that did the most damage. And so that and the Qatar crash when Dave spun out in front of me and I ran over him. That broke my ribs and pressed them against my heart. And so it was either, one more accident and it was going to be out altogether. And, I've got a daughter and a granddaughter and stuff like that. So that was kind of why I decided then it isn't worth one. When you look back in retrospect, you loved what you did. But I can tell you guys as young guys that when you're in pain every single day, you're going to look back and go, I wonder if it was worth it. So I have to get injections every 4 months, whether they're epidurals or L4, L5 injections. It's what it is. I did it to myself. It would have been different if I was NASCAR and made a whole bunch of money doing it. But you go broke in the sport and then your body's broke.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I'm glad to see there's canopy. These people, for the most part, are living through this stuff. The only problem is it kind of creates what we call plastic courage. Right? That you probably wouldn't drive that stupid if you didn't have the canopy.
Yeah. 100% agree. Yep.
Should see how it is in Hydro Sim. It's even worse.
Yeah, the video game.
It's
Some of those
brutal,
guys
man.
call me or they're sending videos. They go, did you watch me race?
That's great. All right, so should we get on to the rapid question part?
Yeah,
Fire.
I think we're
So
yeah.
Okay, so this is just a bunch, just a handful of questions, and you just answer as fast as you can and then I'll go to the next one.
Yeah, 71, so it's not real fast.
Okay. All right, favorite class to race?
Anyone that I'm driving.
All right, beef or chicken?
Seafood.
Seafood. I like. Open cockpit or enclosed cockpit?
Both.
Okay. Favorite racing moment?
Every single second I was in a race mode.
Who was your biggest fan?
Gosh.
Trick question.
It's got to be
know who's going to listen.
fan. The city of Madison, Indiana.
Perfect.
okay.
Good answer.
Coors Light or Miller Light?
Actually, I drink the fake beer now. It doesn't have any alcohol in it. It tastes like
There you go.
that I
All
fly.
right. Favorite race course?
Whatever one I'm racing on.
All right. Toughest competitor?
Oh, boy. Dave Walker.
Toughest class to race?
Every class I raced in.
All right. Well, who's your favorite sponsor over the years?
It had to be Alberto.
Okay.
Yeah, Hank Langsdenkamp was Steel Fabricators as an owner, and then Oberto was the actual dollar sponsor.
Okay. And last but not least, what's your favorite restaurant or bar in Madison?
Oh, I can't say because I'll be back in Madison someday.
You'll be at it though. All right.
Every one of them.
Yeah, they're all great. I went to a handful of them when I was there for a week, and all good food, all good people. It was definitely a nice experience outside of boat racing to go there.
Yeah.
So I guess that leads you in. You just said you're coming back. You're coming back to Madison this year, 75th anniversary.
Hope. This year I was supposed to go, and I had rotator cuff surgery the week before, and so I don't know what's going to break next year before July. But if the body's able, I'll be there. I fly now, and 3 days out of every month, I teach commercial aviation to aspiring pilots that are going to the major airlines, and that does take some of my time. Hopefully it's not that weekend of Madison.
So you're just staying active. You could retire and just sit on a beach with your favorite drink and not do anything, but you choose to get out there and still stay active and
Yeah, I flew
doing
to
things.
flew here from the Keys and did some work on my airplane up at my hangar in Pompano, changed the oil, and really enjoyed tinkering with that. And flying is, it's just a ball, and it requires total concentration and skill because I'm a multi-engine pilot, instrument-rated pilot, commercial pilot, high speed, high altitude stuff, and thoroughly love it. I mean, it's cool stuff. I wish I'd done more of it when I was racing because I think I might have driven the boats better once I understood yaw, roll, pitch, lateral action, things like that better.
Yeah.
I
Interesting.
guess I picked the right episode to put my Lego Concorde plane out.
Oh yeah, man. Absolutely. Do you fly the lake?
No.
Okay.
It's just it's a Lego. I do want to get a Lego RC. Have a couple RC boats, so that's the next step. Start flying them.
Good for you, Austin. That's cool.
It's a lot of fun.
Don't let it fool you. None of them run.
None of
One,
those.
Yeah,
actually, Uncle
if you look
G's
at the
runs.
background,
This guy-
there's 2 RC boats that are not complete yet. A skiff and then a hydroplane.
Hey,
Austin, we're always in some state of getting ready, so don't let them.
exactly.
So I think we're at the point where it's kind of closing thoughts. Steve, obviously you're influential in the sport. If you had to wrap up everything in maybe a paragraph of future of the sport and how to get new fans, followers, and even racers involved, what would you say to them?
I think most important, and you four guys are really doing it well, is respect your competitors. Realize that every one of them is having a challenge in some manner in their life. Respect one another, help one another. We're a very small family, and even though sometimes we'll get sharp tongues, at a race like, "You bastard, you cut me off." The end of the day, man, we got to come together, right? And we've got to see each other as family and support one another. We just don't have excess capacity, right? So take care of each other, do what you guys are doing, with things like your podcast and at the races, and let's just make sure that we embrace more and not get so angry at people because we're all in this together. We're either gonna sink together or we're gonna make it work together.
Sounds good.
It's perfect.
Can't argue that.
That is perfect. So I think we're excited to hopefully see you at Madison live and in person. I'm sure the fans will love to see that, and definitely appreciate you coming on Chasing Tails this week.
Oh, my pleasure, Brandon, Kyle, Austin, Bobby. Really, truly appreciate what you guys are doing. It gives me a great confidence that we've got a future with folks like you doing what you're doing.
Thank you.
We'll keep it going.
Okay, man. See you guys later.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Take care.
All right. Do we have anything else we want to roll into, or?
I really don't think so. I think everything was touched on last week, and I don't know what else is going on.
We have
this IRC call tomorrow.
We have an IRC call tomorrow. Maybe we should just leak the phone number and the sign in, and then whoever wants to jump in can just jump in.
Maybe we just go live
Just
on
free
Chasing
for all.
Tails.
Let's go live.
Yeah.
You know
We'll
what?
screen record it.
Let's go live on Chasin Tails. We can get every IRC member in here, and we can have live comments down in the chat. We can answer. They can answer questions. We can answer questions. We can get this thing going. But
Exactly.
But yeah. So, joking aside, we have a call with IRC tomorrow about this Honda, and we have survey as proof that majority of the class wants it. We have testimonials from people from SCCA, high up in SCCA, about the difference between a spec engine and a not spec engine, and what happens if it's not spec and what happens if it's spec. And that's very interesting facts that they gave us to forward to the IRC. Just a lot going on, and hopefully tomorrow is a step in the right direction. I mean, I know the IRC probably has lots of questions. There's a lot of smart guys on there, and just a couple of pieces of paper aren't aren't going to answer all their questions. So hopefully
and
this
I mean,
call
it's-
does.
Hopefully this helped. I mean, you got Steve David on here that's been around boat racing and every facet of it that basically sees the same thing. I mean, look, he was in the 7-liter class when they shot themselves in the foot, and still feeling after effects from that. That was 30 years. That was before my time, so it was a long time ago when they ruined that class. So it's just looking outside of what we do, and I think that's what I've been personally focused on lately is kind of looking at what the dirt modifieds are doing. All these series that are growing. Global Rallycross was really big for a while, so kind of followed some of what they were doing. But I've been dirt modified's probably been the biggest one I've been watching. Like these guys are selling $60,000 to $70,000 of merch last weekend at the Gateway Dirt Nationals. I know that's their biggest one, but we have Valleyfield, we have Madison. We're not even touching that. We're doing a couple thousand. So what are we doing wrong? What can we do better? That's kind of some of the things that try to work on future wise.
You know what? You know what else? I kind of wish. I mean, it would take someone with some money or Bert Henderson to step up, but something that used to happen that brought in a good handful of racers was the for sale boat. Do a for sale boat with a Honda, an APBA, get it to travel the races till it sells. Do another one. I mean, it brought in a handful of racers when they had the for sale boat before, and you know, it,
Shoot, we got a couple sitting in garages we could use.
yeah,
Yeah,
probably.
literally.
I mean, if you had, you talk to fans at races and they're like, "Where can I buy one?" You're like, "Oh, you got to call this guy and lives in
There has
Canada."
on Facebook
And half the time he
Marketplace
doesn't
already.
answer his cell phone,
Yeah.
so it's
There has to be one readily available. I mean, back to the SCCA thing, you can call up and get an enterprise car right now.
yeah.
You can buy them used, like they're all over. And any car, you can go buy, like Steve said, spec me out. You can go get one off the showroom floor and come race it if you want, you know, and e-sedan and stuff like that. So it's
I
making
mean,
it more readily available.
maybe this is what inboard needs to invest. I know they have a lump full of cash sitting around, and don't let them tell you that they don't. Buy a boat, get someone to rig it, put an engine in it, do a for sale boat. Keep doing it to grow the sport, to grow participants, and then you might lose a couple thousand on each boat, but at the same time, you grow the inboard category and keep
You
growing
lose
it every
1,000,
year.
2,000 on that boat, but you make it back in their registration over a year.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, every bit of it. Or I mean, what about SCCA has it? It'd be hard because of the dunk test and stuff like that. But obviously, if you build a program, you could have dunk tests at races, but a rental
100%.
program.
That
Like you
do
can
that.
those as the speckers are Ford, you go to a race for a weekend and it's like $4,000 or $5,000. You rent it for the weekend. Obviously,
And then
hydroplane racing could be a little cheaper than that, but
also do a raffle boat. Do a raffle boat. Bert did that one time. I mean, I don't know if he broke even or made money on it. It doesn't, if it can work, do a raffle boat to where you can go sell spectators tickets, sell other racers tickets. Because if they're racing and they win a boat, then they're going to turn around and sell their boat, and that can open up for someone else to come into the sport. We got to think of ways to try to get more people racing on the water.
I think one thing that's important, and I'm not saying that this doesn't already happen on a decent level, but I think a lot of times I hear people talk about ideas, whether it's in the pits, people making comments on the podcast. Like we have so many good ideas that haven't even been attempted yet. Ones that have been attempted, ones that have worked, ones that haven't, that could be attempted again in a different way. Like I learned we had a company-wide call at my company last week. Our company's doing really well. We're number one lender in the country. Everything's working, and we constantly keep doing new stuff every week. Not because we have to, but at some point when you're just maintaining, you're not only not growing, you're actually going backwards. And there's nothing wrong with trying an idea and failing, learning what didn't work, figuring out a way to do it better, figuring out another avenue to go. And I think that's something that our sports, it looks like we want to do that as this big family that we are. We just got to keep laying into that idea of throw ideas out there, try new things, see what we can get to and not get to work.
yeah, 100%. And I mean,
Like we talked about, we got to hammer the social media.
It's huge. I'm on obviously a lot of the SCCA forums, and there's this new car. I can't remember what it's called, but it's like a spec car, and it's super cheap, and they're starting their own series. It's not in SCCA. You can run in SCCA, but they're kind of doing their, and they're hammering the marketing. I mean,
Is it
social
that
media.
open
There's
one?
yeah,
Yeah, I saw.
I'll find a picture of it.
They're pretty cool looking too.
So on that form, it's like you got Spec Racer Ford that has probably 700 active registrations in that class, and they're like, why can't we do this? We have this car. Why aren't we doing this? They're doing the same thing we are. Like SCCA is failing them marketing wise, and it's like I got on there. I was like, you guys got to do it yourself. Like I see none of y'all's on boards, and half the time y'all are running into each other. We call it Spec Wreckers for a reason. You have the content, do it. So I mean, it's not just us. There's other series not doing a good job too, but all can do better. Let me find this car.
I mean, you see it in like even youth sports nowadays, man. You go on like our high school, athletic association. It's probably what, Austin, 10, 12 schools, something like that.
Yeah.
Their Twitter page, their Instagram page, they got like 20,000, 30,000, 40,000 followers. And that's for a sport that's really not, I mean, it's producing money for the school and admission, but that's really it.
Yeah.
And it's cool because you've seen in the last 2 years, especially, but even like the last 5, that the social media presence for teams, racers, race organizations, even what I've loved seeing is race sites having their own page, because that is the
Dude,
absolute best way to promote for individual races.
Yeah, definitely.
Like that was,
I mean,
that was the best decision Decatur made this year.
100%. I think that's just the start of it. That you got to start what we're doing and what other teams have stepped up doing. Get APBA on board to do some more of it, and then we can look at the options of, all right, we're getting more views. I mean, like Brian said when he was on the Hydroplane racing, you could post a video of a flip, get 1 million views. But I've been posting videos of just the hot laps on Grand Prix America. They're getting 20, 30, 100,000 views. You can't do that with a car. Everybody sees a car. I mean, you go on even NASCAR on NBC's Facebook and you scroll through their reels, they're getting like 10,000 views. So we're already maximizing. We're like getting more views than any of these other race series. We just need to do something with them views.
I was talking to Eddie the other day, and he was showing me numbers. I mean, we got Facebook reels, like whether it's HRL or individual teams posting them, Montworth, that are on par view-wise with F1 shit.
Oh, yeah.
F1 is probably $1 trillion sport.
Yeah,
right.
I mean,
I think that's just
the fact that they've got companies putting out that media for them, and we're able to compete view-wise with, we've got a decent amount of people doing it, but nobody's really doing it in crazy volume. And, particularly like with individual racers or individual pages doing it, we haven't built up that following yet. And the fact that we're already putting out numbers like that is such a good sign.
Right. It's crazy. And I think that's just, now it's the time, and that's Brian and I've had that conversation, is what do we do with this? So we can get 1 million views on a video. It's good promotion, but what do we do from here? How do we tag that in the, hey, come to an event, ticket sales, stuff like that? Like, you almost got to loop that in on every video at the end. Like, here's where you can find us. That way, if someone does stay till the end of that video, boom, it's there. They can pause it, see where we're at, and come to the races.
Like, I don't know.
Every other page you can think of, related to the video. I know, like, you do a good job when we post a TKO video. You link Chasin Tails' page, you'll link HRL's page, APBA's page, GPA, whatever applies to the video. And I mean, at the end of the day, it's all about clicks, man.
That's also one thing I pointed out earlier, that race sites need to start promoting right after the race for the next year. And maybe race sites, if they don't want to sit at a computer and produce content because they don't have the time, they need to put up some money to people like Brandon or in Montworks, Brian Montgomery, to do that, because they're already doing it. So if you want to pay to try to get your race out there, you can make videos at the beginning and it'll say Decatur, Illinois, such and such date, and then go into a pretty sweet video of onboard and then race in action, or San Diego, and then go to some unlimiteds with GPs. Sorry, I had a brain fart there.
I think one thing people kind of lack in remembering too, for like even race sites or just teams, like go up, contact your local like schools. There are so many like digital media classes. I know I did it in high school where basically making us do like news presentations and editing videos and posting stuff.
Mm-hmm.
See if you can
Yeah.
get in touch with them, do some sort of deal where it helps their grades and they get to work for probably free because it's a school, or
Yeah. Yes.
can help
Yeah,
their
there's-
club, and they
Yeah.
help us grow as a sport.
Careful,
It's-
Austin. You might get us in legal trouble here, man.
hey, that's why I said
Somebody
I'll
has
I'll
to
know with
That's
allegedly.
child
Hey,
labor.
man. You can also find some cheap video editors overseas.
Oh, hell yeah.
I mean, there's
yeah,
ways
definitely.
to do it. And I mean, that I don't know how many people out there probably have a computer full of their onboard footage that they don't do. Or even like I've seen a huge uptick in our stuff of just stuff. I scroll through my phone and I'm like, oh, look, there's a video. It's my kids riding around the boat on their bikes. All of a sudden that gets views. Somebody's seeing a boat, somebody's seeing parts. It's all what's around that video, not always what's in the center. And still, I say one of our biggest views on TKO is a cell phone video I took you in Valleyfield. I took that with the actual HRL footage, and it didn't perform as well as that cell phone video. So sometimes people probably overcomplicate it, think it needs to be perfect and all that, but it's really not.
You know what's crazy? You know what's crazy? How many boats I see. I know some of them are HRLs, but you know how many race teams I see out there that have GoPros, but you never see them post a video.
Yeah, like Mike Rendell. I think I sold him his first GoPro like 10 years ago. Ain't never seen on board from that boat, except for what they did in Valleyfield for him. But I mean, it's that too. But what else? Oh, like what TJ just said about the engagement. What HRL is doing, they're making us all share these posts, and they're getting out there. Now people are going to YouTube and watching these full heats.
Yeah,
It's cool, and people vote on it. People actually get an opinion.
yeah, that's pretty cool.
And I think something we touched a couple episodes ago, and I think like to your point about posting a video of Theo and Lincoln just riding around the boat on their bikes, like the family aspect of our sport, I think is something that can get lost in translation when you're just posting race videos or onboard videos or, you know, trophy ceremonies, things like that. Like, I think that's a part of the sport that we really need to embrace in the public eye is it's, you know, this isn't NASCAR. We don't all hate each other.
Yeah.
We're not out there just making videos, you know, bashing each other, throwing hands after races and stuff like that. Yeah. Do we bicker? Do we go at each other a little bit? For sure. But that happens in any competition. But I think that's an aspect of the sport that is overlooked because it's not really documented.
Yeah, 100%. Something to focus on in 2025 for sure, getting those videos around. I mean, like I said, just the camaraderie after the races. Yeah. Sitting on a boat, having a beer, drinking with your competitor that you just beat, like, and you're BSing about the race or just other things. Like, that's not in every sport. I mean, it's unique to this one for sure.
Absolutely. I think what's probably shown that the best is like the videos that you see from driver intros at Valleyfield. You get to see the teams interact with the crowd a little bit, and the drivers
and bringing their kids up there if they have kids, stuff like that. You know,
absolutely,
definitely.
Yeah, I definitely think it's something we continue to lead in. RDS kind of got into that a little bit, but I think there's so much more to tap into in that aspect.
Oh, 100%. 100%. We won't fix it all, but we're gonna fix something with Chasin Tails.
I don't know what we're fixing. We're going.
I'll start just wearing a GoPro around when we're out after the races. We should get a bunch of people to start doing that. Just walk around with the Insta, dude. You can magnet mount that thing to your shirt.
Yeah,
and you won't even know.
We'll just mute every conversation and play background music, and we're good.
Yeah,
100%.
Justin said he'll throw hands if it makes for good content, and then you'll have a beer later.
Let's go.
I mean, whatever it takes.
Yeah.
Right.
If some of the, I mean, like I go back to, you boys might not remember, but like when they were kamikaze Canadians back in CBF days and seeing some of them go at it. I mean, Dad was involved in half of those fights, but it was like, man, just climbing across boats like spider monkey style. I'm like, that's the stuff we need video of right there.
Oh,
yeah. Well, dude, and if if we get like this e-bike race actually happening, like that has to be live streamed.
Oh, 100%. That's great content right there. Definitely onboards facing the drivers because
there's like weird GoPro footage.
Austin's going 100% white.
Oh,
it's not even a debate.
You guys aren't ready. I'm getting first if I make it to the finish.
Eddie said he asked if he could fight someone to generate content, and he was told no. That's because you asked HRL. APBA, it's
I was about
allowed.
to say Beaumont wouldn't have told
We'll
you.
bring
no. He
we'll
would
bring
let
back
us find you
Joe
a fight.
Racing.
I don't understand why you would ask. Just do it.
Right.
You should just start a fight club.
That's it. Yep. There are no rules.
And don't
We'll just
say
get, like, a
Chasin
heated
Tails told
motorhome.
you to do it.
Yeah,
the
exactly.
post race.
Yeah.
That's Jason Tails that told you to fight.
Yeah, right. I hope we
Yeah,
get some
man.
more of those after race things going this year. You know, obviously back in the day did like the softball games, things like that. I think we can find a way to get some more of those going. It'd be really cool.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, a lot of us do like the cornhole after the races, but maybe just putting a little more organization into that.
Yeah,
Setting up a little
tournament
bracket,
together.
like, hey, kind of like what they do with the hockey thing at the HRL banquet, but set it up prior to, like, all right, we're gonna have this bracket. Here's who's playing. This is what time it's gonna start. Like, have it a little bit more organized. I bet we get a lot of people. It'd be pretty cool.
100%. I mean, even like a freaking euchre tournament, like
Beer
What'd you
pong
say?
tournament.
He said
Did you say
euchre.
yogurt?
He said euchre. It's
I
a
thought you
said
Michigan.
yogurt.
It's a Michigan thing.
All right, that's weird.
What do you mean it's a
It
Michigan
is.
thing?
It's kind of like Go Fish.
I
It's
think
kind of
I
like Go
played it.
Fish.
I think I played
It's
it once with my
nothing
great
like
grandma
Go Fish, dude.
in the
It's what
retirement
cards.
homes.
Absolutely nothing
It's what
like Go
cards.
Fish.
We'll
That's-
have retirement homes.
That's like
sponsor
saying
that
poker
one.
and Go Fish are
Yeah,
similar.
it's for the retirement homes.
We can do a poker.
I've never
tournament
understood
off there.
that game, and I never will.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever. It's a great drinking game. That's all I gotta say.
7-Eleven doubles.
Card games that don't require a
that's
lot of
it.
intellectual ability
That's
are
you.
perfect for drinking
All right.
games.
I am not sitting down and playing cards at a board.
I mean, we had major beer pong, flip cup tournaments
Pop, you're
back in the
bed by
day. I
8
mean,
anyway, what does it matter?
but now we don't do that anymore. So
Yeah.
yeah, I
What's that?
think we used to have. I mean, the beer pong, flip cup tournaments. I mean, they were huge at
Yeah.
races, especially
yeah.
like
Oh,
Cambridge,
yeah.
Can Island.
Cambridge
I
was
think,
wild.
I think you two might have something. To
Yeah,
do
we
with that,
we
why
probably
don't see
ruined
those
that.
too much anymore.
The fights and the arguments for sure. Climbing across tables.
If
I watched,
you
I
were
watched
walking,
Bobby play flip cup asleep.
Yep.
Sounds about
You
right.
know, out of Friendsgiving we had a couple weeks ago, the best conversation that came up was Bobby getting shot by the potato can. They said he put a helmet on and he ran out there. You ain't gonna hit me. And what was it? John Tomey hit you?
yeah,
Thump.
yeah.
Dead center mass.
Man, I thought I ran like 100 yards away.
20 feet.
I woke up in the morning and it was like, dude, it wasn't even probably 100 feet I ran.
Because he was still laying there, probably.
Man.
Deep down, Bob wanted to get hit by that thing.
He did. I mean, good for you, man. It's made a long lasting story. It's gonna go on for generations and generations.
He's reminiscing.
He is. He's trying to think of other things that
feeling
happened
it
that night
again.
leading up to that. Is that the same time John
Well,
set his
hey.
hand on fire?
Yeah, that was the same because he thought because we took out the igniter because it wasn't working. So John thought it was smart to spray the stuff in there, close it up, and then the little hole where the igniter was to use a lighter. So it just acted like a torch out of that hole when his hand was right there, and it just scorched his whole hand.
Wow.
That's almost,
Like,
but you know
Super
what's
racers are
better
smart.
is when me
Yeah.
and Brandon got paintball guns for Christmas, and then Kyle and Austin ran from point A to
Oh.
point B to
No.
let us
That
shoot them.
sucked. What do you
Yeah,
mean?
that was awesome. That was
And then
awesome.
we-
That was horrible. What do you mean? It wasn't like it was just you and Brandon with paint guns.
No,
Uncle
there was
George,
like 4 or 5
or
people.
Dad,
Wally,
Yeah.
I
It was
think.
like 8 of you, dude. We were like 20 yards away too. Austin just stopped in the middle and balled up on the ground. Not a single one of you
No one
shot.
stopped shooting either.
No, it was all empty
Oh,
clips.
you sorry bastard! You're getting shot a lot.
I remember
And
the first game we played that day. I got you guys had me decked out in like plates and everything. I didn't feel shit. I
No.
got down to like the last person alive. Go up, shoot Bob, and Bob goes, "Dude, you're out." And I looked down, and my entire body was orange.
So what race sites has go-karts near the race? Maybe we can get a bracket going where you have heat A, heat B. You take the five top guys from each race, put them in the final heat of the go-karts, and see who wins. That's if
Yeah.
they don't kick all the racers out before then.
Oh man, that was
Yeah,
the best
that's-
part of St. Felician was like you just had racers there.
Yeah.
I mean, it got wild. But Hampton's got it, but it's closer to Portsmouth, but
Yeah.
still not too far away. Valleyfield's got that one, I believe.
Yep.
know what
Yeah,
else
I've been
would be
to the one
fun.
in Valleyfield before. Jimmy Shane won. That's because he cheated. The guy said you'll do a formation lap, and then when you come around, you get the green flag. Halfway through the formation lap, Jimmy just floored it, went around everyone, and didn't stop.
Sounds like a Formula One race.
I'm like, that's
Yeah, right.
cheating. That's cheating.
Cheating. But yeah, all good things.
Racing
I
and
think.
trying.
What do you guys think? Got the wrapping up point of this one?
I think so.
Yep.
What are we doing next week? We want to line somebody up for next week or take our winter break now?
Probably let's just take a week off. We were supposed to do a week off, that week on, week off after racing season because we're not racing right now.
But people want to hear us right now.
Okay, the only problem is the next Tuesday after this one is Christmas Eve.
Yeah, we're getting into Christmas, so
And
we
then
either do
New Year's
we
Eve
either
is
do this
directly after that.
Yeah,
I
we
say
either
we do
this
this upcoming week and then take 2 off.
Yeah.
I
We
won't
can-
be here on New Year's Eve. I can guarantee you that.
Yeah, let's
We
do
can
that.
use next week to discuss the IRC call and whatever drama unfolds otherwise in the boat racing world, because it always seems to do.
Yeah, definitely. And I think obviously we'll ask the IRC's permission, but there's 10, 12 rule proposals. Maybe we can talk about those on here. Get
Okay.
everyone's opinion. I know there's a starting procedure rule proposal, so we'll see. That one's been
I didn't
proposed
see
for
that
like
one.
5 years. Yeah, just trying to go back to the 1 minute bin. Saying that now we have drones, you can tell if people go inside the course. No need to race up to turn 2. I know people have said no boats have ever crashed. Now I crash, so I'm the standard.
It is stupid to have it in a corner.
Yeah. I don't think the outcome of changing lanes really changes much. I mean, I remember one heat in Lakeland that Jimmy King came flying around me in the bird, and I was like, I stuffed my nose in. I was either hitting him or he was going to stay in 2, and luckily he stayed in 2. So, I mean, the boats accelerate so fast now. There's really no purpose of it except to beat things up.
Yep. So yeah, we have our IRC call tomorrow. I guess we'll be back on here next Tuesday, and
yeah, we'll get a guest lined up. We'll get somebody on here for a little bit. Find somebody.
Definitely.
Yep.
Bob's thinking of who.
Yeah, I don't
See, that's how live Chasing Tails is. We ain't gonna have this conversation tomorrow. We're just gonna have it right now. We're still
Yeah.
live, and you guys can hear us bickering.
We are way too busy to be texting about this stuff during the week.
Yeah, that's it.
Yep.
That's it. So send us some new news. We will.
Oh my god!
Talk
I
about
thought
it
you
next
said
week.
new nudes.
I've seen new news.
Of course.
With our fan base, God, no, please, no.
Oh man!
I thought we were
You
back
know
on
it's
that
like-
OF conversation.
Oh,
Brandon's gonna have to just go start blocking pages again.
That's it, man. Too many of them. I'm just glad we got our comments back working this week. I don't know what happened last week, but obviously Kyle Bipes must be in an important meeting or something because he's not in our comments.
It's a low count this week.
Keeping it low key. Neither is your mom, so it's been a low count. I like it. But anyway, folks, that's episode 32. Hope you enjoyed our conversation with Steve David. Make sure you like, share, subscribe to this channel. We're going to bring a lot more of this winter and in the next year. And if you don't agree with everything we say, sorry on you.
yeah.
On the next
whatever.
week. Have a good one, y'all.
So you-